Dear colleagues, today I would like to talk about the Olympic Games, one of the biggest and most watched sporting events in the world. The other one is probably the World Cup, but I feel that the Olympics are also the most complex event to organize because of the many sports it features and because there are multiple disciplines for each sport. For example, if you think of swimming, diving, water polo, or synchronized swimming, these are all disciplines of aquatics. And for each discipline, there may be numerous events. Over the years, new events and sports have been added to the program, and any sport to be considered for the Olympics must be widely practiced around the world. It must be governed by an international federation that complies with the Olympic Charter. And finally, the International Federation must apply the World Anti-Doping Code. But I don't want to give you too many facts about the Olympics. Actually, if you're interested in knowing more about them, you can visit the website olympics.org, where there is a lot of information, even an online museum, and that's certainly an excellent resource for interpreters wanting to expand their sports glossaries. Instead, today, I'd like to focus on the provision of language services at the Olympic Games. With 10,000 athletes representing 200 nations and a vast audience traveling from all over the world to reach the host country, there is, of course, a large demand for linguists. First of all, a lot of translation work needs to be done before the events start because of all the documentation related to the athletes' sports description, signage, the venue, so medical records, etc. Everything needs to be produced in the three official languages of the games, which are English, French, and the language spoken in the host country. Then comes the demand for professional paid interpreters, which is unfortunately combined with a much wider demand for volunteer unpaid interpreters. So, for the Tokyo Games, for example, which regrettably have had to be postponed due to the COVID-19, only 40 interpreters from Japan and 60 from abroad were apparently scheduled to cover 11 languages. But then at the same time, the Tokyo Olympic Committee had already launched its search for volunteer interpreters. How many? We don't know. But we do know that in the 2016 Olympics in Rio, there were about 8,000 volunteer interpreters. This number may sound a bit surprising, but it is well known that the Olympic Games rely on volunteers, not only for language services, but for any of the activities performed. Volunteers are crucial to the success of the Games. If you were in London for the 2012 Olympics, you will certainly remember the 70,000 volunteers at any corner of the town, manning entrances, welcoming people, giving directions, talking to the media, helping referees and athletes before, during, and after each event. And there is actually always a huge number of applicants going through the selection process. For those 2012 London Games, apparently there were more than 240,000 applications. Why are so many people willing to volunteer? Surely many people are happy to be part of the Olympic family because of the values it promotes, among which contributing to build a peaceful and better world by educating youth through sports practiced without discrimination of any kind. Then, to many people living in the host country, the Olympic Games represent a lifetime experience. It's an exciting celebration of cultures and sport, which billions of people enjoy watching around the world. So, supporting the host country to organize them is considered almost an honor, even though there is, at the same time, on the other hand, a lot of criticism about the commercialization of the Olympics, about some political and religious interference, or the way the Olympics funds are managed locally, which most of the time doesn't benefit the population of the host country. However, for those of you who may be interested, I wish to share my own memories and experience as a volunteer at the London 2012 Olympic Games, giving you some pros and cons. First of all, it has to be said that at the games there is a buzzing atmosphere, a lot of energy. You meet lots of interesting people and make new friends. And my team is still organizing yearly reunions to keep in touch. But there are quite a few challenges. Well, you need to have a lot of free time to volunteer at the Olympic Games. When I received the invitations to apply for this role and to help the nations, it was for the 2 weeks of the main events. But then actually, I had to go to London many more times for interviews, trainings, uniform fitting, different meetings with my team, and orientation at my venue. So I had to take extra days off. Furthermore, during that time, travel expenses were not refunded. Later, an Oyster card was issued to volunteers during the actual games, but it would only cover a certain area. So many people living outside London still had to pay sometimes expensive daily fees to reach their designed location. Then, of course, you have to be prepared to stand for many hours or walk a lot. So you need to get to the games quite fit and healthy to avoid exhaustion. And you have to wear a uniform. I didn't enjoy mine very much, even though the designers were very proud about that model because it drew on British heritage in shades of regal purple and poppy red. I personally found the mix of colors and the shape of the garments unpleasant to the eye and to the body. But there were quite a few positive points which definitely outnumbered the negatives. I was very lucky to be part of the protocol and language service team for the archery events, which were held at the beautiful, iconic location of the Lord's Cricket Ground. I knew very little about archery then and nothing about the location. But since then, I've earned the respect of many British people when I've mentioned that I stood in the long room of the Lord's Cricket Ground. We were also given vouchers to go and eat at a special canteen on the top floor, but the best food was the one that the chef of the long room put aside for our team after the guests had left. It was, these were the most delicious canapé and sushi I've ever tasted in my life. Really food fit for royalties. And it was literally that. That's what it was because the room was destined to VIPs. During the training, I had to learn how to address our potential guests, which might include members of the royal families as well as foreign dignitaries, the President of the United States, emperors, kings, etc. Because being part of the protocol and language team also meant looking after the VIPs coming to watch the games. But the most exciting part as a member of the language service team was to provide interpretation in the media conferences or for medical doping control situations and my favorite, the mixed zone, which is an area where the athletes are quickly interviewed soon after their performance. So we needed to facilitate communication between the media and the press and the media and the athletes and capture their initial emotions and quotes to send them to the flash quote reporters who would quickly publish them through different media. The cherry on the top for me was that I was asked to stand on the balcony, best location ever to watch the field, just when my favorite team was playing for the finals. I saw the archer calmly stand with one foot on each side of the shooting line, draw an arrow out of the quiver, knock it to the bowstring, raising his arm, pointing it straight at the target. I saw him draw the string back to his face, shoot, and score the winning point that earned the Italian team a gold medal. I couldn't clap and cheer madly as I wanted to, but I remained happily composed. So, in final, I would like to say that volunteering at the Games provides a unique and interesting experience. It looks good on any CV and it opens the door to potential future opportunities. So, if you have the time and the chance, why not give it a go?